Greetings, comrades, and welcome to the Eastern Border. If I sound a bit weird, it's because I'm recovering from a bit of a poisoning attempt. Yeah, haven't found out everything that well, but boy, a few days were a bit of a hell, and now I have episodes to do. Oh, and also more actual copy editing for the article, but I'll manage that. I think in the next few days. Hasn't been easy for me. Thank you for your support, everyone in Discord and otherwise who have been there for me. It's very appreciated. I can finally record. And I thought that I'd be talking, for example, why Ukrainian journalists are actually talking about conflict between Zelensky and Zelensky, which is a bit overblown. They have to write about something, to be honest. But you know, then another interesting thing happened. We'll be talking about Venezuela today, because this also ties into the whole Russia-Ukraine thing. The problem here being is that Venezuela is always super friendly towards Putin. It always has been, but there's a bit of a problem currently. See, on December the 3rd, Venezuelans voted for or against the creation of a new Venezuelan state in the Essequibo region. It was apparently a non-binding consultative referendum designed to put an end over about 200 years of territorial conflict. The problem is, it belongs to Guayana. The issue has been becoming an obsession for Nicolas Maduro, because he's always been talking about this. But yeah, there's a bit of an issue here because it also involves ExxonMobil and all the fun stuff. See, that's the thing. This has been a territorial dispute over this Essequibo region, which dates back to the colonial era. In 1811, when Venezuela proclaimed its independence, it believed the region was part of its territory. And it still kind of is there on their school maps. Now, despite the claims, the United Kingdom, which occupied the territory of present-day Guyana, placed the region under the authority of the British Crown. In 1899, an arbitration court ruled in favor of the UK, even though the United States at that point had supported Caracas. The dispute resurfaced in 1966, when Guyana gained independence. The Geneva Agreement, signed by the UK, Venezuela, and British Guiana, urged countries to agree to a peaceful resolution through dialogue, but Guyana has since sought a resolution through the International Court of Justice. A procedure which Venezuela rejects since, they're not big into this International Court of Justice since they're not a member, because otherwise they could be friends with Putin. And this whole thing comes via some political issues, you see. The thing is, presidential election takes place in a year, and Maduro is trying to rally support around him by playing to the sentiments of voters, by positioning himself as some sort of nationalist, especially since previously, he has seen some competition and he's been pushed aside, and previously all this stuff that happened, the peace, somewhat peaceful situation that had formed itself around the whole situation. What happened is that they had made the deal with some sort of elections after the previous ones. It was a bit weird last time, and now kind of Maduro has to at least pretend that he's going to do something. So it's a bit crazy. We have some interesting reports about the results, though, because the results of the elections, I checked out how different newspapers reported on this, because I want to get through the Western reporting, and then I want to inform you on what the Russian side is saying, because this has quite a large impact on the whole Ukraine war. However, in this case, The Guardian, for example, reports that Maduro vote to claim Guyana's territory backfires as Venezuelans stay home. And they focus on the fact that turnout was minimal and vote on referendum intended to rubber stamp this whole claim. Well, the thing, he really pushed for it, and apparently there was very little turnout. However, despite the minimal turnout that has been focused on. And The Guardian, which they, by the way, did not really point out how many people actually went there. They state that apparently 95%, like Venezuela itself says that 95% of those who voted yes, basically went there out of about 2 million people. Although the government, of course, claims 10 million people, but So what happened is, and CNN, however, focuses on the fact that Venezuelans approve of takeover of oil-rich region of Guyana. So everyone's now speculating. Here's the thing, because I wanted to look at both sides, and one side focuses on the fact that turnout was low. The other side apparently focuses on how this was supported. But yeah, the thing is that Guyana obviously called this move towards annexation a existential threat, and there was a lot of screaming all around, a lot of complaints from both parties, and at least they're starting to talk a bit. But it's gonna be a bit interesting because once again, it really relates to the war. And currently, the situation is that Venezuela is already giving out licenses to Western companies to kind of work in the territorial waters and all that stuff, where there is way less regulations than in the States and all that whatnot. And it's a bit kind of like Russia doing its own thing. Meanwhile, Guyana's president Ifran Ali, he stated that the country Guyana is taking all the necessary precautions to protect itself from Venezuela. Because, for one, although it seems that although Guyana has only 800,000 people, and Venezuela has about 10 million people, there is a little tiny thing about whole situation there with the Essequibo region and all this stuff. There are basically no roads going there. This is why this whole thing is a bit dumb. See, Guyana's president is called Ifran Ali. He's an Indian Muslim. He's the least Latin American person you could imagine. Guyana is part of the British Commonwealth. It's the British cultural side. This is why also those of you who follow football, that is soccer, you know that all these Guyana, Suriname, and French Guyana, they play in the CONCACAF, not in the CONMEBOL. So basically they play with United States and Mexico and Caribbean countries towards, like, with whom they're way closer culturally, rather than with the whole South American continent. Also, there are barely any roads. Everyone lives like right next to the coast there. This Essequibo region, it's a home to about 120,000 people, and it's just jungle basically with very little roads. It's gonna be a bit crazy. So it's gonna be hopefully this does not turn out into hot war, but at least Western media reports that as Ali has stated, quote, "Our first line of defense is diplomacy," adding that Guyana has reached out to leaders abroad, including the United States, India, and Cuba. The United States, by the way, has responded by being very concerned about this, as usual. And apparently they are also preparing for actual military scenario, if such a thing would happen. Everyone's taking this threat very seriously, and so am I, which is just another thing that shows how pretty much horrid all this situation is happening in the world. I mean, we already have a lot of conflict happening all over the place, and I haven't even checked on what's going on in Haiti. I doubt there is even could be much of Haiti remaining at this point. But this war, you see, has a clear impact towards Ukraine. See, I was watching a lot of shows and trying to truly understand this because, as you know, I'm here in Eastern Europe, not in Americas. And apparently this could have an impact on funding for Ukraine if some sort of nonsense just happens out there. Already, the situation in the front lines is a bit weird. Although I have to state that, it's not as grim as people try to tell you. This is my This is the eastern border telling you, please stop worrying that much. Sure, Ukraine has problems. Russia also has problems. Russia has problems with morale. Russia has problems with logistics. Russia has problems with ammo. Russia also has so many problems with everything that it's just insane. Ukraine's problems are very simple, to be honest. Ukraine's problems are the fact that starting from the very early war, no one gave Ukraine what it needed on a timely manner at all. It was all given eventually, but if you remember the very early war, Germany gave 5,000 helmets or something, and now look, Leopard tanks and airplanes and all this stuff, and if only these things could have been done faster and in the early war, if the equipment from the West would have been there when it was needed and when it was there for the highest use potential, then let me remind you, and not Westerners also just selling machine tools for ammo production, right? Then the situation could have been much more different. And the thing is, again, Venezuela is very friendly with Russia. Let's get on to this part now. And here I'm using an article from RussiaBriefing.com by Mikhail Baranchik. This guy has written in very kind of business, academical language about doing business between Venezuela and Russia. Russia Briefing in itself is apparently a business magazine that writes both in Russian and in English about how it's like to do business inside of Russia, even today. And that's the whole thing. This article was written in December the 5th, and I'm going to summarize it basically. I'm not going to quote all of it. But let's start with the history here. The history of Russia-Venezuela relations is marked by a significant evolution, particularly in the post-Cold War era. It's a very academical article, kind of very dry. Apparently, cooperation started primarily with Hugo Chavez. And by the way, the ultra-liberal, libertarian people, and I mean libertarian to the point where I think Alex and my friend Heathen would consider them a bit weird. They stated that they're all filthy commies there, and I don't disagree, but Putin is not a commie, so just saying. But basically, Hugo Chavez managed to hang out and build a lot of equipment and trade routes from Russia, because by 2011, Venezuela had become the top customer for Russia's arms. So we're looking at here in the potential invasion is Russian guns in the jungle, which they don't have. And after Hugo Chavez died in 2013, new interesting things happened in the Russia-Venezuela relationship parts here. Because you see that Maduro's election was very controversial. However, Russia continued its support, which included Russia's veto of the United Nations Security Council resolution calling for new presidential elections in Venezuela in 2019. For this, Maduro supports Russia in the Ukraine conflict. And the implications are there, and they're profound. Russia's engagement with Venezuela, like with all weird, broken states with dictators up there, is part of its broader strategy to establish kind of this, what they call a multipolar world order, which I call as the world order between psycho dictators and actually people who, want to work for their money and, enjoy some freedoms. And, their official stance, although this is total bullshit, but written very academically in this magazine, is, quote, both nations, through their alliance, advocate for a global landscape where power is more diffusely distributed, reflecting their shared goals, economic interests, and political ideologies. And, quote, throughout these developments, Russia's relationship with Venezuela has been driven by both countries' status as major oil producers and their shared policy stance towards the United States. This complex historical trajectory has laid the foundation for the current trade and investment dynamics between Russia and Venezuela. And that's a bit scary, because I really don't know how these people write so academically. I, for one, am going to have to do the same thing because I have my keynotes to finish, but it is what it is. Russian-Venezuela trade volume itself has jumped 70% between January and July 2023. The economic ties are strengthening because Venezuela is still doing what they can to support Russian-Ukraine war. Of course, primarily is the oil trade, which is the number one thing. They have a crucial partnership there, given the nature of, and I really had to study this. Apparently, Venezuelan crude oil is very heavy, which requires specialized processing. It's not the same. They have a lot of it, but it's kind of like closer to Russian brand of Urals, not the Brent one. And now I can say that I know little something about oil trading. Second part is agricultural trade. And so apparently Russian market is open to Venezuelan fish and plants and all this stuff. Russia supplies Venezuela with flu vaccines, cancer drugs, and all sorts of things as much as they can, because they're lacking everything right now themselves. And they also have signed a contract for deploying a GLONASS measurement station for space and satellite navigation in Venezuela, but that's also kind of not really going on anywhere. There's a lot of space ties, a lot of economical ties, as you can see. But what is the opportunities here, and what's going to happen? And again, I'm going to quote from this article because this is ultra dry. Sorry about this. Quote, given the existing military ties, there is potential for further collaboration in defense technology, including research and development of new military equipment and joint production initiatives. By leveraging BRICS and EU, Russia and Venezuela can use their positions in these international alliances to explore new markets. Strengthening South-South cooperation, particularly with other Latin American and BRICS countries, can open up new avenues for trade and investment. I kind of like how Russia is technically considering themselves to be Global South, which I really hate the term. Secondly, I really kind of also don't think that anyone between these two countries should really rely on stuff, because corruption is everywhere. When we're talking about trade, please remember that most of it is just basically going away. And it's being stolen all the time. And this, by the way, is despite that Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, by the way, wrote an article in 2022, I think it's 9th of December, by Pavel Tarashenko, whom I really wouldn't trust as much. He's the deputy head of the Commerce and Newspaper Foreign Policy Department. For those of you who know the correspondent thing, he wrote that it's going to be like only in words only, and that the support will fall and all this stuff. But this hasn't been the case. The thing is that Maduro is being pushed in his own country because their political situation. I'm not that informed, but apparently there's a strong candidate from the outside to kind of go in and actually smash Maduro, which is why the turnout was low, because Maduro only managed to grab his very loyal followers for this referendum, where, of course, he got 95% of the vote. But still, it's kind of like this radicalization. If you're like in Russia, also, not everyone supports the war, right? But there's those, Girkin and pals, those buddies. They're super aggressive about it. They're very loud as well. I think the same thing is in Venezuela. Currently, Russia is just grasping for allies, and I think Russia has promised something to Maduro there in exchange for something. Maduro wouldn't do this if he hadn't gotten permission from Putin. So it's either two options: either he forced Putin to allow him this and asked for some resources which Putin doesn't have, or he just decided that Maduro could pull off a Putin himself, and do some crazy shenanigans. Thankfully, it's still on the conversational stage, but as sadly in the United States Congress, the question about funding going to Ukraine and Israel as well is now under question, and there are now many problems there. Yeah, such a distraction is something which I think that the free world totally didn't need. this is one of the saddest points and saddest things that I had to cover on the show. And again, sorry for my weird voice. I'm not very healthy at this point, but I just wonder right now. I haven't even been surprised that much. I just wonder where things are going to go next. I think that Afghanistan-Pakistan conflicts are also going to be interesting. We're going to have a lot of conflicts these days. I just really hope that you all stay safe. Because they're, well, apparently looking out for me again. Because, to explain what I said at the beginning, I went out to eat with Evitam, and in the pub I just passed out, like nearly passed out. It was horrible, and did the toxicology analysis, and bad stuff. Lots of money spent, lots of health damage, and I'll manage. But yeah, thank you for your support, because that helped a lot. And now Venezuela is happening as well. But let's just hope that there is a diplomatic solution. After all, Venezuela is much closer to the United States than it is to Russia. And with Brazil also fortifying its borders, there could be a possible chance for some peaceful solution here somehow. Because there's a key boys, after all, just a bunch of, jungle, basically. I'm pretty sure they can give, parts of it or something. But all in all, and again, sorry about how my voice sounds today. All in all, I think that unless something horrible happens, unless something goes way out of the planned events, I think things should be somewhat calm. Because Russia also cannot afford to push down on stuff. And Russian side, our good buddy Maxim Kalashnikov, the guy who is friends with Igor Girkin, he lately is lamenting and complaining how Russia will not take this chance, this opportunity given to them, apparently, to do something about it, because they can't really do it. They can't exactly focus on that stuff right now, which is nice, but still. Right now, we just have to live with the fact that such impulses and such chaos is going to be happening everywhere. And again, notice how Russia is friendly with where the trouble starts. I mean, they're friendly to Hamas, they're friendly to Venezuela, they're doing things. It's obvious to me by now that if you want to stop this whole nonsense and focus on actual security, then it's Putin that really needs to go. But that's it for today. Thank you for listening, and sorry, I'll get better next time. Please consider supporting our show on patreon.com/theeasternborder or clicking the donate button on theeasternborder.lv, which we fixed after last time. Medical expenses and all this stuff have been huge, and I'm trying to figure out how to function, and Christmas is coming and everything, and it's pretty bad, to be honest. And at least I'm not in Guayana waiting for some sort of assault right now or something. До свидания, товарищ. And remember, happiness is mandatory.